Can't decide between Vendetta Forever and Action Hero? Well, I can't blame you. Both games look an awful lot like Superhot, came out a few weeks apart, and are practically the same price. Well, let me help you. I've played both, and while they look very similar, I actually find them strikingly different in playstyles. And in this video, I'll break down each game individually, compare them head to head, and then let you know which one I prefer. I've never done a dual video game review before, so let me know what you think of it. I don't see this being all too regular of a thing here on the channel, but your feedback is always helpful. And quick shout out to the devs of both games for providing me with review keys. And one final note before we get started. This video ran a tad longer than I was expecting, so I put in some real good timestamps for you, so feel free to skip ahead. First up, we have Action Hero by Fast Travel Games, one of my favorite VR developers. Action Hero is basically a reskin of Superhot. Think Superhot went to the movies. The gameplay is identical, and I mean identical to Superhot. Action Hero feels so much like Superhot that if you told me it was DLC, I would believe you. But Action Hero is a better Superhot. No questions about it. If you've never played Superhot, let me explain quickly how Action Hero works. The main draw, the time mechanics. Time moves when you move. So the faster you move, the faster time moves. To make it even more fun, when you kill someone, they chuck their weapon at you. Not to hurt you, but so you can slow-mo snag it out of midair. Chances are you're going to need their weapon because guns only hold a few shots. Each stage is a short little burst of a puzzle where all you need to do is kill a handful of enemies. Just don't get hit, because everything, including you, is a one-hit kill. But don't get caught up in thinking this is a first-person shooter, because it's not. Action Hero is a puzzle game with guns. And it's better than Superhot because the stages are just more fun and creative due to the theme. It just leads to some over-the-top moments that feel epic and hilarious at the same time. Because Action Hero, it never really takes itself too seriously. You can also easily recognize the films that inspire the levels, with my personal favorite being the Matrix-style stages. It's a perfect match for the gameplay. This formula just works so incredibly well in VR, and quite frankly, I'm shocked that it took 7 years for someone to clone Superhot. How it took that long is beyond me, but I'm glad it finally happened. Unless I missed something. If I did, let me know, because right now it's kind of bugging me, and 7 years seems like a really long time. Action Hero is made up of 5 movies, and the game will take you roughly 2 to 3 hours to play through all of them in total. Each movie is broken down into multiple scenes, which are then further broken down into individual shots. And while the formula never really changes from movie to movie, it does bring some new things to the table. Action Hero has a few more weapons, enemy types, and even some boss fights, and that's something his grandfather just didn't have. But there's a bit more to the game than that. There are collectibles that come in the form of coffee cups that you shoost. And beating the game unlocks the director's cut, which is sort of like a new game plus. The stages are basically the same, but some of the enemies are different, and you might run into body armor or a raptor driving a dirt bike, so look out. And then we of course have leaderboards and a section for weekly challenges that put just a little bit of a twist on the levels as well. The only gripe I have with how the game plays is that some of the melee hit detection just feels a little bit off, like my weapons are clearly in the middle of their body before it registers. This caused me to die maybe a few times, but it's not really anything major. I do have one more gripe with it, but I'll come back to that when we compare the two games. Action Hero does feel maybe a tad short for the price, but there's a promise of more content to come, and I trust that Fast Travel will deliver that content. Now let's talk about Vendetta Forever, clearly also inspired by Superhot. This game brings a unique twist to that formula though. Instead of enemies throwing their weapons at you when killed, Vendetta Forever lets you grab their weapons from a distance, which teleports you to the weapon. It's a creative twist on teleporting, and one I actually particularly enjoyed. And when you're nailing your movements and slicing through a stage, you're like a gun-wielding ninja. You just feel cool as hell. And this focus on teleporting actually leads to some really interesting puzzle mechanics and gameplay opportunities. And as a VR veteran, I was surprised at how much I liked the teleporting in this game. Currently the game has around 60 stages, and these are really quick hitters. Most stages are around between 10 and 30 seconds long. And I actually love how short the stages are. This is a great game to just kill a little bit of time with until you realize that Vendetta Forever has that one more turn mentality to it. I mean, I dare you to play just 1 or 2 stages and walk away. You simply just can't do it. And it took me probably about 3 hours to beat the game in total. Vendetta Forever also takes some inspiration from Pistol Whip with its aim assist and armored enemies. You also have a health bar in this game, and it does recharge, so you aren't one-shot kill, at least on the normal difficulty. Throwing weapons in Vendetta Forever feels awesome. It's like you're throwing bullets that just rocket out, and for the most part, your accuracy is better than a Cy Young pitcher. I actually loved the throwing knives. I found them damn satisfying and deadly. Outside of that, there's a ton of different weapons in the game. Different pistols, shotguns, rifles, SMGs, bottles, grenade launchers, and more. And each one feels different. I'm terrible with the revolvers. They kick so much, it's hard to be accurate. I have to remind myself to slow down a little bit when I'm holding one. And you can't reload any of these weapons, just like in Superhot, so you have to teleport grab to stay lethal. But what really surprised me about Vendetta Forever is how varied the stages are. There are a few different basic mission types like kill everyone, reach the exit, eliminate the VIP, or don't kill the hostages. But then you'll encounter truly unique stages that turn this formula on its head. All of a sudden, everything is pitch black, and you can only see when something makes a noise. So it's time to get loud or wait for some footsteps. And before you know it, you're swinging a whip Indiana Jones style, avoiding traps and being chased by boulders. Sometimes you're racing a lit fuse, trying to extinguish its flames before it explodes. The devs have really squeezed this formula and gotten a lot out of it, and you'll be surprised at just how dynamic Vendetta Forever can be. And all of a sudden, this kind of simple sounding game, it wasn't really as simple as I thought. It's refreshing to play a game that really drills into its core mechanics to get the absolute most out of it. Just like Action Hero, there's a lot of movie inspiration here too. We talked about Indiana Jones a bit already, and I'm pretty sure here I'm defending this mansion Scarface style. And this one here, you're falling down a stairwell in slow motion, shooting everyone on the way down. And help me out here, I think this is the Matrix, but I can't really remember. You also get to live out your wanted fantasies and curve bullets around obstacles or perform butchery with katana. And it feels really weird to say this, but I like that the stages are so fast. I don't really remember a lot of them, and that's a good thing. That quick hit of a level actually makes it far more replayable. And replaying some of the levels felt kind of like a strange deja vu. And that's pretty cool. When you complete a stage, you're greeted with this screen here, which frequently reminded me that I sucked. I did score pretty damn high on a few, and for a guy who doesn't really care about leaderboards, I felt a burning desire to replay some of these stages and shave off a few seconds. Maybe it was a constant reminder that I was below the 50th percentile. Each stage also has a hidden collectible, and I only found like maybe 10 or 15 of them in the heat of battle. And also, just like Pistol Whip, there's a pretty deep and robust modifier system, which requires a bit of unlocking. So what I'm saying is, I think Vendetta Forever is a highly replayable game, and I don't see any reason why more content couldn't be added to this game. I do have a few minor gripes with it though. Sometimes you can't progress in a stage because you're too far away from a weapon and you need to teleport and you miss the grab or something. When this happened, I just restarted the mission, which is a little bit annoying, but again, not a big deal because it's like 10 seconds. The game also has some up and down difficulty spikes. Nothing game breaking, but if you play it, you'll notice. Okay, now let's compare the games. They feel quite different to me. Action Hero feels so much more deliberate in its kind of puzzle mechanics, and it feels much more like a puzzle with a solution, whereas Vendetta Forever doesn't really have as strong of a puzzle feel. It's a lot more action-oriented and only sometimes feels like a puzzle, and at other times it feels like an action-adventure game without a story. Both games have a fair amount of trial and error, so you will fail a fair amount in each one. Vendetta Forever also has a ton of enemies. Some stages are killing 20, maybe 30 people, whereas Action Hero might max out at around 10 per stage. In fact, it was really hard for me to be playing both of these games at the same time. I struggled to switch between them. Action Hero is much slower paced. It's entirely built around that slow mode control of time. If I jumped into Action Hero using that same frantic pace of ducking and dodging in Vendetta Forever, I would die instantly. There's some slow-mo going on in Vendetta Forever, but it doesn't have the same feel. It just kind of lets you dodge a bit easier, or it's used to make a stage feel different entirely. Vendetta Forever is also much more centered around twitch reflexes and controlling the flow of battle by teleporting to your next gun. In Action Hero, you see events before they unfold, and you're conservative in your movements. And its best moments are in the slow motion, as the bullet passes past your face, as you watch your predicted shot reach its target, and then something explodes. Vendetta Forever's best moments are when you're dancing your way through enemies, chaining together kill after kill, leaving a trail of bodies in your wake. And the sheer variety in the stages keeps the gameplay fresh. It keeps you guessing. You don't know what's beyond the next door, but you gotta be ready for anything. The levels in Action Hero mostly just feel like a progression in difficulty with some cool set pieces, but with a more balanced difficulty curve. But the gameplay itself never really changes from moment to moment. Instead, its variety comes from the theme and its over-the-top moments. Completing the two games will take you about the same amount of time. Now here's my take on which game is best. For me, it's Vendetta Forever. It's the clear favorite. Its stage variety just offers so much more creativity and diverse gameplay, with a deeper modifier system to boot, and I think the game is far more replayable. After seeing the high-octane moments in Action Hero, they lose a bit of their luster on the second playthrough, and towards the end of the game it starts to feel like you've seen kind of all that the game has to offer. Despite the two games having a similar amount of content, Vendetta Forever feels much more replayable to me, to the point where I would say it justifies the price gap between the two. But the biggest reason I prefer Vendetta Forever is just how it handles failure. Dying in Vendetta Forever is just a quick restart of a stage that takes just a couple seconds to actually beat. But dying in Action Hero, well, it can be annoying. Death in Action Hero forces you to replay every stage in that current movie's scene, which can be 3 to 4 different stages or shots. Not every movie, just the scene and all the shots that make up it. This often led to frustration, as I'd rush through the easier stages I'd already beaten and just make stupid, careless mistakes. That said, you really can't go wrong with either game. Action Hero is likely better for VR newcomers. I'd recommend both if your budget allows for it. Right now, I would say that Vendetta Forever is probably leading the charge for biggest hidden gem of 2024, but I still got a few games I want to play there, so we'll see. Both of these games prove that so-called old VR ideas aren't tired at all. They just need to be done right, and when they are done right, it's still fresh, exciting, and ridiculously fun. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully it helped you decide if one of these games is for you. And I'm always working on my next game review on this channel. So if you want to see what I have coming up next, press subscribe. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.